Okay, so recently I dropped a magazine, and this is a GHK G5 magazine, one of these, which weighs a ton, and by dropping the magazine it damaged the lips, which are, the damaged lips are here. You see that? So I can't use them because that will cause issues with the gun, of course. Now this is obviously a completed magazine, there's nothing wrong with this, so that can go on the side. Incidentally, the difference between the G1 and G2 magazines is this one weighs next to sod all, and this weighs absolutely almost the weight of the gun. So these will be the new ones. These will be the ones that you'll get if you order a magazine now. I don't think you can actually get these anymore. Well, you might be able to get these, but getting the lips for them is like rocking horse shit. You just can't. So, inside the magazine, you basically have this. But this is where the cylinders sit. And they, as you can see at the bottom, it's got two massive Allen keys which hold the basically the caps for the cylinders, and they come out with you just basically take them out with an Allen key and you can get to the internals. You don't really need to do that, to be honest, unless there's a problem with the cylinder itself. But if there's a problem with the cylinder, this is basically aluminium or cast steel, to be honest. Whatever this is, I'm sure that some people will know better. Put it in the comments, that's not a problem. But it's all one piece, so if this breaks, you're screwed. You've got your fill valve and you've got your exit valve, which again you shouldn't need to touch. If you need to get them out, you'll need the proper tools for it, which is, let me just make sure the camera still sees, yeah, one of these tools, and that fits the top valve, and the bottom valve was one of these. It's quite a fiddly job, I'll be honest with you. Don't be tempted to get the black version of this, which is made of, I think it's die cast, and the reason I say that is because if these are tight, the die cast one will just split, and then you'll be left with, well, a useless one of these. So get the steel version if you can, or whatever this is. Taking apart the magazine is fairly straightforward when you know what you're doing. The base plate that fits on here, so I'll put this together so you can just get an idea of how this looks when you do this. Let's see, need to make sure I get it the right way around. There we go. So it fits together like this, and you basically have this little notch here that you can see. The valves obviously fit in their own casing, their own part of the casing, and you have a cap that fits over here, which is this cap. Now, you've also got the spring which sits there. When you remove the cap, you've got to be very careful for two reasons. The first one is the spring is going to come flying out at some velocity normally, and secondly, you can't just push these off. You actually have to tap these off because they're on really tight. So, as in from there, you need to tap it off. I would recommend using something like one of these hammers, which has got a rubber end and a plastic end, because you don't really need anything far, you know, anything more crazy than that. So, before you can take anything out, there is actually a pin, which is in here, and it's this one. And that basically goes between the casing and the cylinders themselves, so you've got to be careful of that. This needs to be extracted or tapped out before you can do any of this. So once you've tapped that pin out, you've taken all this off, you've taken your spring out, you then separate that. That's just plastic, polymer, plastic, whatever. And then you're left with this. Now, when you first get this out, you'll notice there's two levers in here, which are these two. And these are basically the levers which, when the magazine is empty, they will allow you to. They basically force the pin back, but they're not required. As in, you can take them out and leave them until you put the magazine back in. There's two of them. There's this one, and this one fits behind it. They're really straightforward to see how they go. So I would expect no issue with getting these out. I mean, it's up to you really. There you go. Just pull that one out. Okay. The actual lips and the rubber gas release membrane thing here is held in place by another pin, which is, you see through this hole here, is that. It's this little pin. So you'll need to extract that pin as well. Once you've done that, you can pull they'll probably find they're quite tight to get out. Basically, they sit in the magazine like this, and if you just basically pull them forward and down, the whole thing comes away. So just remove that. Now, as I was saying before, the difficulty at this point is getting feed lips. Now, I ordered some feed lips, and they've come from a French website, which I'll put in the comments because I've forgotten right now. But as you can see, there is a little difference. Because these are the Generation 2 feed lips, you've got these little lip things here, and they won't fit into the older magazines. So what I've been doing is, and you know, if you do this, it's up to you. I just thought, well, I've got a magazine I can't use, so, and I've got 4 of these lips, I may as well just try and see what I can do with it. Is I've actually cut off the bits, or the end bits themselves, and you can do that with a Stanley knife. Again, I'd be very careful doing this because there's such a potential to lop fingers off and various other things. I apologise if this isn't on the camera. Obviously my focus right now is to not lop my fingers off. I'm pretty sure you guys can see this process or imagine this process. It's not rocket science. Let's try that. It's still slightly out. Can't force this. So you look at a normal magazine, see how flush that is? That's how it should be. Another magazine as well. Ooh, there we go. And look, the hole lines up as well. I don't know if you can see the hole. Let's see. Little pin. Oh, I mean, we don't lose anything. Let's give this a whirl. So, obviously I want to put the pin in. Like so. Again, using rubber mallet, plastic end. Because you really don't want to mess these up. I don't mind messing up the hammer, but I don't want to mess up the pin. So the pin's nearly all the way through, so I've got a plate I'm going to use to knock the rest of the pin in with this punch thing here. So make sure the pin is flush. It's on both sides. That keeps this in place, which is, well, very important. So then what we're going to do is we're going to put this back together again. So to do that, I'm going to put these in place. And these are really, really straightforward. And just basically slot in like this. One there. And the other one goes on top like this. Right. So you can see when that's pushed down, that'll bring it back up again. So we've got that side of it done. We've got that in place, that in place, that in place. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back into its case. The right way round. Yeah, no, that is the right way round. bloody nightmare. There we go. So you can see it should fit flush. There shouldn't be anything that's going to cause any grief in there. Unfortunately, there's still a bit of damage to the lips, but that's my bloody stupid fault. Now I'm going to put the other pin in, which is there. Now this was a ball ache and a half. So again, I'm going to go off camera to do this because I need to do it on the table. So back a minute. So you can see pin there. See the other side there. So now we've got to put the spring in place. Now I'll be honest, this is the first time I've done the spring. So this is your spring. Obviously caps goes on there. So let's see. So it'll be this end in first. Like so. Followed by the spring. Like this. And this end goes on here. Whoop. And this is what I mean about the spring coming out. This is why you've got to be careful. So I just need to. I keep having to touch the back of the camera. I need to take the screensaver off. So this slides on the other way. Shit. It actually slides on that way. So as long as you can get the spring in. Right, so now we've got an issue because the pin is going to the other side. See how the pin's slightly out there? So I'm going to knock that back in a little bit. So I'm going to get my rubber hammer and just tap that a little bit. Has that done it? Yep, that's done it. So as you can see, there you go. You'll know it's in right because that pin sits there. That little plastic nub goes like that. So let's see if it holds gas, shall we? Let's put some gas in it. No leaks. I can detect. And you can see the nib has come up there. So next thing is really to put some BBs in it. And right. So you need one of these to fill these magazines up. Now remember, these are new. It goes on the end like that. You see the BB. Just make sure. Okay, so these magazines are notoriously difficult to fill until they've broken in a little bit. Now, the way to fill these is you don't put it on straight like this. Obviously you can't do it that way, but if you put it on an angle, you have the best chance of getting these in. Now this is going to be a ball ache. So get a few in, like so. And like I say, it gets easy. So you're going to lose BBs when you first do this. When I'm putting them into other magazines, as in newer magazines, it's a lot easier. Right, so see that's working. That's okay. The next thing is to try it out. So I'm going to do this off camera. Only because I need to fire it at the ground because I'm indoors. So this is the GHK G5, modified stock. Some other bits on it. I've got the metal bolt, eventually. It fits in. That doesn't mean shit though, so let's see. Well, that works. That works really well. Just clear the weapon. Put the weapon away. Well, there you have it. I mean, that worked. Looks like you can modify the Gen 2 lips for the Gen 1 magazine. Bravo. I'll see how it goes. Obviously, need to make sure I put quite a few rounds through it, make sure it doesn't have any problems, but bravo. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope it helps. I mean, these magazines, the gun itself is awesome. The GHK G5 is an awesome weapon. It's got a proper kick on it, and it's doesn't seem to have any problems in cold weather environments anyway. Right, thanks for watching. Bye.